I will get us started. So welcome. My name is Mary Eleanor Power, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for Dalhousie University's Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development. I'd like to kick us off today by acknowledging that Dalhousie University is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people. And we also recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kma'ki known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. So welcome everyone for our webinar on microcredentials, how they can boost your resume. And I'm delighted to introduce my colleague, Cindy Russell, who is the manager of microcredentialing at Dalhousie University. Cindy has a Master of Adult Education from St. Francis Xavier University, and has spent many years in post-secondary and public health system supporting provincial and national workforce development and learning initiatives. Like Cindy, who started in February of this year, microcredentials are fairly new to the university. There's much to learn in the world of microcredentials, and Cindy, alongside a steering committee of DAL staff and external partners, continue to explore and discover their potential for learners, programs, and external partners. And so I'm delighted to pass it over to you, Cindy, to walk us through your presentation. And before I do that formally, I would just like to let everyone know that if there are things that you'd really like to dig deeper into or go back to, we will be sending around a recording of today's webinar. It will arrive in your inboxes before the end of the day, so keep an eye on your inbox and your junk folder. And also there will be a link to our website where you can learn more about our microcredentials. So without further ado, Cindy, over to you.
Thank you so much. I am really excited to be here today to talk about microcredentials. Just give me 1 second. Can you see the screen? Okay, Mary Eleanor?
You bet. Yes.
Okay. Just going to do one thing here. There we go. Okay. As I said, I'm really excited to be here today, and thank you all for coming and taking time out of your day to talk microcredentials. As most of you probably know, microcredentials have been expanding across Canada, and it is a bit of a wild west out there. As a result, when you compare microcredentials, you may find that they don't all mean the same thing. And where they are similar across institutions and businesses is that they recognize the skills or competencies that are relevant to employment. And it's a credential that comes in the form of a digital badge. I'm realizing my screen didn't change here. How's that? Okay. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. They come in the form of a digital badge typically, and they can be shared across digital platforms. I'd like to spend some time today to share some information with you about what microcredentials mean at Dalhousie and how Dal microcredentials can be meaningful for you and how you can use them to showcase your skills. At Dal, we define our microcredentials as credentials that represent the achievement of specific skills or competencies, which are highly regarded by employers, and they've been validated by Dalhousie University. So what does it mean to be validated by Dalhousie University? Well, it means that the microcredential has been developed to meet criteria that's been set across 3 requirements. And these requirements are that the microcredential will offer some level of assurance that the skill or competency is highly regarded by employers. But we are also finding that they can be highly regarded by professional associations, governments, and communities. And while we want microcredentials to matter to employers, we also want them to matter to you. And we're really mindful of their potential in lifelong learning, particularly in the areas of personal development, social inclusion, and community building. The second requirement has to do with the design of the learning experience. A Dal microcredential represents the overall or overarching skill or competency that's achievable within that learning experience. And I will talk a little bit more about this requirement in just a moment. Our third requirement is that they are earned by successfully completing a competency-based assessment that evaluates the demonstration of that skill or competency. And this means our Dal microcredentials clearly state what you need to do, the degree to which you need to do it, which is also known as the proficiency level, and then you prove you are able to do it by demonstrating the skill. With respect to ensuring that our microcredentials matter to you, we have found that they can serve many purposes. So perhaps you are first in your family to think about attending a university, or perhaps you are considering attending Dal, but you're a little nervous because we are a really large university. Our microcredentials can provide a very comfortable and perhaps more affordable introduction into the post-secondary education world. Perhaps you're not certain of what you wish to study, or maybe you are contemplating a change of career and you're having a tough time deciding what career choice is right for you. Well, maybe a Dal microcredential can attract or broaden your interest around a particular field of study and help you choose a pathway that's right for you. Perhaps you want a promotion at work, but recognize that there are skills you need to develop, or maybe you have those skills, but need a way to provide evidence around those skills. So maybe a Dal microcredential can provide you with this evidence. Our microcredentials offer learners that opportunity to experience that connection to our Dal community and can, in essence, become a stepping stone to investigate further educational opportunities, as well as support you in attaining your professional goals. Dal microcredentials really are evidence to show that you meet those skills or competencies outlined in that employment ad or the position description. You could create a portfolio of Dal microcredentials that show your specialization in a given profession, or you could create a really unique portfolio, one that of course complements your educational achievements to date and highlights your skills across many sectors or interests. The bottom line is microcredentials offer immediate value from the learning experience, and that value may mean something different for each of you. We aim to ensure that you as the learner leave our microcredentialed learning experiences not only confident in your ability to demonstrate your new skill or competency, but also confident in your ability to speak about your new skill or competency. Every badge will offer a detailed description of the skill or competency, how it was assessed, and the degree to which you had to demonstrate that skill or competency. So it showcases your achievement and it gives you the language to speak about it. At Dal, we've been developing and evolving our microcredential programming for over a year. We are still relatively new and we're still discovering and exploring, but I'm really proud to say that we have now issued over 800 Dal microcredentials to date. And I am curious if any of you on this webinar have earned a Dal microcredential. So if you have, let us know in the chat. Even, outside of Dalhousie, I would like to know what kind of microcredentials you have earned, but also share how it's helped you. I'd be really interested to come back to that at the end of this presentation. You will find that all microcredentials are pretty similar across institutions with respect to those requirements 1 and 3 that I talked about. This second requirement is where Dal stands out as being a little bit different. Our microcredentials, they represent the overall skill or competency that can be demonstrated within a learning experience. So whether that experience is 3 hours or 3 months, it represents the overarching skill that you're able to demonstrate after completing that course or workshop or work integrated learning experience or module or training, etc. We've developed learning experiences specifically to be microcredentials, and we've identified opportunities within existing courses where there could be a microcredential, and then developed them to reinforce a particular skill or competency within that course. And we have developed dual-branded microcredentials that recognize competency-based learning opportunities offered by our external partners. And let me give you some examples. Some Dal microcredentials are designed specifically with a focus on learners achieving one specific or discrete skill. An example would be our Faculty of Environmental Health and Safety's laser safety course, where you leave the experience able to take the necessary measures to safely operate a class 3B or 4 laser or laser system. Now, some of these types of microcredentials are available to the public, while others are very specific to a workplace or another academic program. For instance, our Python programming bootcamp microcredential is earned by students within our Faculty of Engineering program as a means of preparing them for a future course. A learning experience may also be designed in such a way that there is a buildup or a laddering of knowledge and skills to achieve an overall competency, such as our fish health and diagnostics procedure microcredential. It's a mouthful. It's offered through our Faculty of Agriculture, and earners of this microcredential need to demonstrate their ability to use a health assessment scoring matrix, to observe fish for their general level of health and welfare, to identify the internal anatomy of a fish, identify common fish parasites, perform a gross fish necropsy, prepare tissue samples, and so on. So overall, they're able to demonstrate that they are competent in conducting fish health and diagnostic procedures, which is the overarching competency in this learning experience. We've also designed some Dell microcredentials to be modular, flexible, and stackable. So for instance, each of these Dell microcredentials can lead to a certificate. In this example, our instructional methods for adult learners microcredential is a standalone course, but also part of a 5-course certificate called Adult Learning Fundamentals. So you can take one course and you can be recognized for this learning, or you can complete the certificate on your own time with every skill you master recognized along the way. By the way, if this course is of interest to you, there is one starting on November 25th. As I mentioned, we have dual branded microcredentials that are designed to support employer training. So as an example, we have a dual branded microcredential that is offered in partnership with the Canadian Coast Guard, and it's been designed for internal training purposes. We also have developed dual branded Dell microcredentials in partnership with organizations such as professional development associations, and they offer competency-based learning experiences. And this is an example of one we've developed with the Nova Scotia Career Development Association. On that note, by the way, for those of you representing businesses or organizations on this webinar, we do recommend you connect with us to learn more about these dual branded microcredentials, because they're a great way to recognize your employees for their learning. They can offer a faster way for you to respond to the changing needs of your workplace. And sometimes it only takes a little tweaking to add this higher level of recognized learning to an already established learning opportunity. And remember, these learning opportunities can encourage and attract more employees because of the higher level of engagement and recognition that's built into the applied learning experience. Here's another example. This is one of our most popular microcredentials, and it's a short online learning course called Foundations of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the Workplace. It includes a dual branded Dell microcredential that's developed in partnership with Camille Dundas from the Idea Practice. You can learn more about Camille by going to the ideapractice.com website. In this learning experience, you demonstrate that you're able to select the most appropriate strategy to support inclusive communications, earning yourself the Inclusive Communications Strategies microcredential. And if this one's of interest to you, this one is actually starting on November 4th. And just to touch on that third requirement, that the Dell microcredential is earned by successfully completing a competency-based assessment. This means you must demonstrate that you can do the skill or competency to a desired proficiency level. We strive to ensure that this assessment is done in as realistic a setting as possible. And as a result of it being a competency-based learning experience, it doesn't disadvantage particular learners, making the learning experience more equitably attainable. Having this type of learning experience is aligned with quality and inclusive education practices, and therefore supports organizations' diversity and inclusion efforts. Now, let's say you have engaged in a learning experience that comes with a Dell microcredential. What does that mean for you? Well, first, a Dell microcredential carries the trusted and internationally recognized Dell name behind it. And, well, we've all had those interviews that ask, tell me about a time when. And it's our hope that with a Dell microcredential, you can speak to what you're able to do, the degree to which you're able to do it, provide an example of when you had to do it, communicate that confidently, and provide the evidence through a digital badge. So let me take a moment and show you how you can showcase the new Dell microcredential you have earned. This is a snapshot of an email I received when I recently was issued my Dell microcredential called Microcredential Design. And I should point out that we're currently using Credly as our platform to issue badges, and that an email actually does come from them with a Dalhousie University name on it. I had to accept my badge to get access to it. It then showed me the different ways I could share the badge on social media and in emails. I added it into my LinkedIn profile, and it allowed me to write something to highlight this new credential on my newsfeed. In my profile, it shows up with our new special Dal branding under licenses and certifications. Here is an example of how your email can showcase your microcredentials as well. Think of how this would look to a potential employer when you forward your cover letter and your resume. Your badges get held in a personal space that they refer to as your wallet, allowing you to showcase your unique skills or competencies. And behind each badge is the metadata that gives the details about that particular microcredential. Now, for all you employers out there, this is very important. We strongly recommend you click on the badge of your candidate to verify their credential. You will see this page first that provides a description of the skill competency associated with the microcredential, the way it was assessed, and the associated skill tags. The skill tags provide you another level of meaning behind the skill developed. You can click to verify the badge in the top right corner. It will provide you with the information of who received the badge, when it was issued, and when it was last updated. You, as the earner of the Dal microcredential, can also monitor if anyone has opened your badge. So you can see that the microcredential is really a great communication tool between an employer and potential or current employee. So we've talked about the characteristics of a Dal microcredential, the different style of learning experiences that are available related to our Dal microcredentials, how Dal microcredentials can be meaningful to you, and how they can be used to promote yourself and your skill set. If I've piqued your interest at all, here are some upcoming Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development learning experiences that come with a Dal microcredential. I'd be really interested to learn from you all how our Dal microcredentials can help you, like today, like right now. So we have a short poll, now that you know all about them, that we would like you to participate in, and then we'll get to your questions.
Wonderful. Okay, and I am going to launch this poll. So let me make this a little larger. I hope that you can all see it. So, and I have just added in an image that pulls from Cindy's last slide that shows upcoming courses in our calendar that have microcredentials. So you can also refer to that image in the chat.
Thanks, Mary Ellen.
You're welcome. So we have people kind of contributing to it, which is great. I'll just give it another moment here. Okay. Just a few more moments. All right, I think we're good. This is great. So I'm going to share the results here. So we have a tie. How would Dal microcredentials support you the most today? It would help me showcase my unique interests and complement my existing credentials as I search for employment, and help me make decisions around a career change. Okay, and there.
Oh, thanks for responding to that. That's really helpful for us to really get a sense of how you're feeling about the microcredentials and how they matter to you, which is really important to us. So having that unique portfolio in itself is a great sales tool to use with when you're looking at seeking employment.
So I will stop sharing. And now there are two questions that have popped into the chat here, Cindy. So let me turn on my video so I'm not just a blank person talking. So Sylvia has a question. Does it apply to, and I think that perhaps Sylvia is referring to kind of partnerships. Does it apply to not-for-profits, like where Sylvia works?
Yeah, Sylvia, we're happy to work with you to develop some micro-credentials that are dual branded. We'd have to take a look at what you offer in terms of your training, and then we just have to make sure that it becomes competency based so that we're actually assessing what people can do versus what they know. So the Nova Scotia Career Development Association is an example. I believe they're a nonprofit as well. So we are working with anyone and everyone who wants to have that DAL brand behind them. And as long as it meets the criteria we have set out in our approvals rubric, we're good to go. So does that help?
We'll wait and see if Sylvia responds. And Renee just has asked a question, and Renee indicated earlier in the chat that they've received one micro-credential so far and working on another. And just as a follow-up to that, has indicated that they have not received an email with their badge after completing the course this past summer. So just wondering if we can point Renee to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just send an email. You can reach me at cindy.russell@dal.ca. You can also just, easier to remember, micro@dal.ca, and I'll still see it. So happy to work with you. Sometimes those emails will go into spam because they are coming from Credly. So just check your other folders in your email and see if it's there. And if not, I can send it out to you again, and then we can make sure you get it accepted and showcase it.
Awesome. And Carl has a question. You mentioned updating a micro-credential. Do some or all of them have to be regularly updated to retain the badge?
There's a couple ways I can answer that, Carl. Thanks, is a great question. First of all, there's micro-credentials that are time sensitive. So you have to what's the word I'm looking for? You have to be reassessed on that competency, and they're more around either regulated profession of sorts, or like if you think about CPR and first aid and how you have to renew it, we have some micro-credentials that are like that. So they're only valid for a certain period of time, and then you'd have to do it again. With respect to updating our micro-credentials, we in our quality assurance framework make sure that we revisit those micro-credentials after a period of time. Right now that time is 3 years, and then we make sure that those credentials are still desired by industry and others. So does that, please tell me if you need more information. Are there any other questions? I noticed there's a couple of people who mentioned that they had, I think there were a couple that have a micro-credential. Is it just Renee? Renee, what micro-credential did you earn?
Okay, strategic public communications, building impact and influence.
Oh, excellent.
Great. And Carl has a follow-up question. So could you potentially lose a badge after 3 years?
Oh, you would know that at the time you were entering into the learning experience, how long that badge would be valid for. So again, most of ours, you do not lose. It's only if it's very specific to a particular industry that has an expectation that you will renew. So most of ours, you do not lose. The employer can always, when they check on the badge, see how old that badge is. So we do encourage you to always keep updating, maybe with some new micro-credentials, or if we've restructured a program to take it again. It's certainly up to you, but you do not lose your micro-credential unless it is one that has an expiry set to it.
Sylvia has a question, and I see there's a question from Charlie too, and Carl responds and says, understood, thank you, very helpful presentation.
Great.
Carl, thank you. So Sylvia asks, is the rubric able to be shared in advance, or is there a one-pager with the key points to support development / or review of what we have in offerings, current and emerging?
No, so what we typically do, Sylvia, is we can send you a couple documents. So we can send you what the application looks like. We can send you the rubric, and we can also send you a real quick sheet that's just like planning for a Dal microcredential, which gives you some really quick information around what you would need to prepare. So happy to send that along to you.
Sylvia, and you can perhaps in the drop down, if you wanted to provide your email address directly to Cindy, you could do so in rather than indicating everyone in the chat, you could just send it to hosts and panelists. So that might be an easy way to facilitate that, just as a suggestion. And Charlie asks, are the microcredentials the same as courses taken under a certificate at Dal?
So good question, Charlie. And that's what I was trying to get at, is we have different styles of microcredentials that have been developed. So we do have ones that were developed specifically for a discrete skill, and you're learning that. And then we have ones that are attached to courses. So yes, if you are looking at a certificate program, that Dal microcredential is built into a course. So you are still taking a course. And what's changed in that is now there's actually an opportunity for you in that course to demonstrate practice and then demonstrate the skill that you're seeking. So we've reformatted some of the courses to be competency based. And as a result, hopefully you find that there's a higher level of engagement in them. But you can still, the difference being from the course, I'll just touch on this, is that you can do one course and you're recognized for that learning. So that microcredential stays with you. You've earned it and you've demonstrated you can do what it is that course says you can do. And you can take your time and you can move on to another course at your own pace. So I know that we do have some timelines around when you have to finish the certificate. I think it's something like 5 years that I read in some cases. However, again, it's meant to be more flexible for you so that you can have that credential, you can use that credential in whatever way you want, and then you can take the other courses, you know, at a time that's good for you and when it's affordable for you to do so. So hopefully that helps. Anything else to add there, Mary Eleanor? You have a little bit more knowledge of some of those certificates than I do, but yeah. Well,
just only to say that the time frame to complete a certificate, it can be 5 years and also can be 3 years, depending on the length of the certificate. Yeah.
Thanks for that clarification.
Yeah, of course. And so Sylvia, thank you for sharing your email just to hosts and panelists. So Cindy, just to note that Sylvia has her contact information there. I'm glad. Thanks, Tasha, for adding in the chat. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us. Jackie has a question. Could you send out a list of start dates of those microcredentials related to adult education and or design and curriculum? And sorry, go ahead, Cindy.
Did you happen to put the Word document I sent you?
I did.
There? Okay.
Yes.
So the upcoming courses are in that slide. And I put that slide into just a Word doc that Mary Eleanor can share with you, which is probably higher up in the chat at this point.
So let me do it another way here. So
I can also share the screen again if you want.
So you're looking specifically for adult ed courses that have a microcredential. Okay, wonderful, Jackie. Okay, so let me just look for adult education courses that have a microcredential, and I will include that in the chat here.
Yeah.
Cindy, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say maybe it's a good time to show people how to get onto our website and to move around so
yes.
that they can take a look themselves too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just
Jackie, I see in the chat that you would be interested in taking a micro-credential to add to your Master's of Education that you took years ago. And that's another really great point, is that sometimes, if we did pursue different credentials many years ago, and we want to show that we're really lifelong learners and we're current in our learning, then a micro-credential is a great tool to use for that.
And I will share my screen just momentarily. And Jackie, I'm just sending you a note directly. Here's a link to the courses in adult education that have micro-credentials that, and you'll be able to see the start dates for each of those courses. Okay. It's quite a lengthy URL, so my apologies for that. So let me now share my screen, and I will just take it away here. There we go. So I just wanted to, as Cindy mentioned, just show you where to find information on our micro-credentials. So here you're seeing our Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development page. So I'll just show you how to arrive at the site. So by typing in dal.ca/openlearning, you'll arrive at our homepage for our faculty. And under program areas, we do have micro-credentials listed. And by clicking here, you can see we have a 30-second YouTube video that breaks down what our micro-credentials are. And then also by dropping down each menu, you can see the courses that have micro-credentials attached to them based on different areas of interest. So I would, and when you do click on one of these course names, it will take you to that course, where then you can see when the course will be offered and what micro-credential you will earn, or you have the ability to earn. And you'll notice that we have for almost all of our courses, we do have winter term dates available, along with spring and summer, and in some cases next fall. So there are lots of options there for you. So again, to find more information, to see those specific courses that have micro-credentials attached, visit our dal.ca/openlearning website, click through to program areas, and then micro-credentials. And I see, let me stop sharing my screen just for a moment. And I do want to open the chat. Oh, wonderful, Jackie. You're welcome. Jackie says, great, thanks, which is fantastic. Okay, and Sylvia is signing off. So thanks so much, Sylvia, for joining us. I'll just pause here for a moment and see if there are any final questions. And actually, I'll kind of fill my pause by saying and reminding everyone, for those who joined a little bit later, that there will be an email sent to your inbox. Check all of your junk, clutter, and spam folders in case it arrives there by accident. And that will have a recording of today's webinar that's hosted on our YouTube channel. And it will also have a link to the micro-credentials page that I just showed a few moments ago. And I should also mention that the email address where you can reach Cindy, micro@dal.ca, will also be included in that email. So if you do have any follow-up questions, you can certainly reach out that way as well. Wonderful. Some thank yous in the chat.
Thanks so much for coming.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Feel free to share this information with your colleagues. Certainly forward along the email if you think it would be of relevance. And thanks so much, Cindy, for taking your time to prepare the presentation and to walk us through the information. So take care, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are in Canada. And thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks, Cindy. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.